Down Gaming. This week we are talking about Steamroller 2025, how to prepare for it, and we're going to go over the scenarios and give our sort of top tips and experiences with Steamroller 2025. Talk a bit about how we sort of reflect on games and how we can improve from each Steamroller, and then have a look at the hobby section of the Discord, as well as me and Dan have a bit of a catch up, ask how we've been. Anyone in the chat who's joining us, how are you? How's your week been? Have you played any War Machine? And the most important question of each week, how are you, Dan?
I'm good, thank you. Unfortunately, didn't get. Oh no, I did get a game of War Machine. That's a complete lie. On Monday, I played against Steve, which is really good. He once again got me with an assassination. I was playing Hazaroth with a more experimentalist, shall we say, with two spectres, the Slayers, the Dawn Guard archers. I can't remember their name, and some single wing infantry, the ranged soulless guys. I can't remember the name. Yeah, managed to keep. He kept it going. We played scenario really well. But turn 5, I had to try and swing over to the right hand side. We were playing two fronts, and I couldn't get to his caster, and then he assassinated me before I could get to him. Yeah, it was great. That was a great game. And then on Wednesday, I played some Conquest Last Argument of Kings for the first time in about a year. Played against my friend Eric, and that was great. Sometimes I think it's nice to just play a different system, just give yourself a bit of a freshen up. Obviously, there's lots of transferable skills, but also just playing something a bit different. The one problem is though that you sometimes get rules wrong. So I had a Song of Ice and Fire rules, War Machine rules, as well as multiple other game systems rules in my head. I was like, so when I killed someone, I was like, oh yeah, I can do this, and he's like, no, that's not this game. But otherwise, yeah, been great. Yeah, great little bit of hobby. And yeah, looking forward to playing some more this week.
Nice. Conquest like rank and flank.
Rank and flank, yeah. I for me, it's the best rank and flank rules sort of system. But there, it's certainly that it's not without its flaws. Having played Kings of War and Old World and Fantasy and Song of Ice and Fire, I love it. I think thematically the models are great. I'm really happy with my city states. But again, it's not for everyone. The cost of an army as well is quite considerable compared to other game systems. You're talking 35 quid for a minimum box, and sometimes you need a couple of boxes to make a unit sort of more functional. But yeah, lovely looking game. Great sort of community. Yeah, quite very much similar to sort of War Machine, where they have regular updates. They have a scenario pack that gets updated regularly. They have patches to make sure things are balanced. So from that point of view, if you're looking for a rank and flank game that you want to sort of have that benefits that War Machine has with being a really tight rule set and clean, I'd definitely recommend it. But that's not to say it's without its flaws like cost of entry, trying to get into the game, and also just the community is very small compared to other systems.
How do you find the scenarios in Conquest? 'Cause I always struggle. I always found that the rank and flank games struggled with their scenarios.
So I think they are the best scenarios rank and flank I've ever played, but also the fact they update them every year makes a big difference. Song of Ice and Fire is incredibly stale because of the game modes being the same for forever. I think that so they have so there's some scenarios that have zones. Some scenarios you can only score victory points or like scenario points from getting the zone. Sometimes it's two. For example, it might be you're going for the one we played on Wednesday. You're going for there are two outside zones are worth 1 point for the first 4 turns. Then in the middle 4 turns, I think it was, they're worth 2 points, and the one in the centre is only worth one, and then it swaps again the last couple of turns. So that's just showing us one of the differences. There's other scenarios where it's more about killing, and you'll get different points for. So you don't just kill; you get a point for killing a unit, but also you get a bonus point for killing a character. Conquest typically you're only taking 3 characters at most because each character has a warband with it. There's other scenarios where you've got to try and take the opponent's scenario, and basically all the scenarios mean that there's got to be an interactivity. You couldn't win with just a gun line. You have to play scenario, and unlike other game systems, scenario is king. you can be real ahead of scenario and be, have only one model left on the board. Actually, you still can win the game because if you play the scenario well the first couple bits. But obviously there are scenarios where you also get points for killing the opponent's army in addition to those sort of zones. So it means it's more flexible. I think that one thing is really nice is the fact that it does feel like games play differently. It's not like you're playing Conquest, but you're not playing the same version of the mission. Terrain also is a lot less because compared to sort of War Machine and things like that. But yeah, I really like it. I think that the biggest thing is you'll never have an argument about the rules. You're never thinking, oh, what's this mean? It's very clear. And if anything is unclear, it gets updated really quickly. So much so that in the year since I played before, I think there'd been probably 5 updates. Now, that doesn't mean there's updates like to all your units every time, but it's just that clarification. There's those FAQs, and also there's slight changes to game modes as well. And all the rules are free, like War Machine. So if you're after a rank and flank, would thoroughly recommend. But if you don't have a community, it's a big cost to get an army if you've only got a couple of people. Like me, at the moment, it's really me and one other guy at the club. There's another person that's just started playing, really used to play, and we're slowly growing that coop. But I certainly I couldn't justify a second army at the moment.
Yeah, I looked at it, and the models are cool, but the models are it seemed expensive to buy a full force. So
they're bigger as well. They're bigger scale.
Yeah,
and it's not It's not like they're easily you can't really use them in other systems as much.
Sure.
And some of the sculpts most of them are really nice, but some of the older ones are just they can tell they show their age. If you're looking for other sort of competitive rank and flank game, I think Kings of War is a really good rule set. I just found it quite a hollow experience and lacked character. I thought Kings of War mechanically on the clock and everything, so really that's great, but just lacked a bit of soul for me. In contrast, Old World and Fantasy I think is full of soul, but also full of holes in their rule set, and it's all well and good if you're playing against like-minded people, but as soon as you introduce some sort of competition, whether it's a friendly game down the club, the arms race that can happen, that might just be due to our club, but I don't know how you've found it at your local club and doing your slow grow league.
Full of souls and holes. I like that. Mario from Mario Eckhardt. Greetings from Austria. Thanks, Mario, for tuning in all the way from Austria. What we'll do is we'll jump into some Steamroller chat.
Did you get a game, by the way?
Did I play a game this week? I played a game for like a long time away. I'm a bit snoozy today, as you can tell. I played a game on Monday against David from David, who we had on the channel. Played him in the War Table League. He is playing Dark Operations for the league, so he was like trying to beat a boss on like normal mode rather than hard mode. So he wasn't against his Orgoth. I played Dark Operations, and we played Trench Warfare, one of my favourites. I was fortunate enough to get an early assassination with a petition move and then a charge. It's like a 15-inch non-linear threat. But that was like ended the game quite quickly. So we played the game on me playing different turn and managed to win on scenario, I think it was turn 5, and it was like 17-11 or 17-10. So that was a good game. But I think Dark Operations being sort of Mark III style, I think if you were to put like Kaiphos into Crix, he's a lot better caster in there with better options. So it was a good game, but it wasn't like David at full power with his Orgoth. So I got a win there, and then I didn't play Tuesday or Wednesday this week, unfortunately. But this morning I played Zilv, who's like a really well-known name in the UK, probably in global scene really, with his Infernals. And that was the first time I ever played Infernals, and that was a bit of a education. I lost on scenario 10-7. That was a really good game. So I got 2 games this week, which is always good. And I got to play a bit of Ragemonger this morning. I've not played in a while. And on the feat turn, I rolled like a double 1 into a 2-1 into 2 1s and a 2, and then a double 1. So it was a good feat turn. Yeah, so a couple of games. The UK league I'm in, I'm fortunate enough to make it to the final. So I think next week I'll be playing the lovely Matt Gallagher and his Storm Legion with my Brian Bloods. And then there's probably that's the end of the UK league. So There's a European League that's starting right now, so I might jump into that one. Um,
Nice.
yeah,
And
so
war tables to play the game when you're not getting physical games, and just make nice
yeah,
getting
it
good.
doesn't replace. If I could get a game every Tuesday and Wednesday locally, I'd probably just do that. But one thing I have found it, which is quite nice, is obviously locally, where we're a relatively small player base, we do tend to play the same people with the same armies quite a lot. It's quite nice to play people, say, not even just outside of our meta, but across Europe, see the sort of different lists they run in the same armies we play against, and see play against different armies we haven't got locally. So yeah, War Table's a great tool for that.
I think it's what we spoke about going to events and sort of experience different metas and getting to meet different people. You're just doing that over the internet. Like I say, it doesn't take away from the sort of real life entry and actually having the models in front of you and pushing rolling dice. But yeah, it's
I think
definitely a
a
good way
good
to.
balance would be a game in person once a week, and if you're really trying to push and improve your play, playing in the European leagues is probably a really good idea. Play people across Europe, see different metas, see different armies. Probably get a lot of valuable experience from that.
I probably should. I used to play Judgment on War Tables, so I can't imagine it'd be too hard to pick up. I just need to sit down and do it. Maybe I just need to get you to give me a tutorial or do a video on how
Yeah,
to play.
it's very simple actually, and it's got a lot of you played Vassal, I'm sure, for like Guild Boy and that. It's got lots of little if you hold Shift on one and do a dice roll, you roll the dice and do the damage at the location at the same time, etc. It's got little things like that that make it faster, but at its core, it's very easy to use. Um, yeah, maybe I'll do a little video on how to use War Table or tutorial, or maybe we'll just play a game of War Table sometime.
Yeah, sounds
Uh,
great.
right, cool. So we talk about Steamroller prep. A few things are like building a list, preparing your dice bag before the day so you're not stressed, turning up promptly, wizards, etc. So first of all, we're talking about building a list. Obviously, in
Yeah.
War Machine, we have two lists that we take to an event. What's your sort of current approach then to your two list pairing? Do you build two lists with like scenarios in mind or archetypes in mind, or how do you approach it?
So my list design sort of mentality in any game system is to build lists that will be good into pretty much everything. I like those lists where I can be flexible, but obviously with War Machine you get to take two. So actually, I like to write lists that will pose questions. There's some people that like to be more reactionary, and I know that sort of within Dusk in particular, I'm currently within a conundrum at the moment, thinking of casters for events, particularly the Welsh Masters in September. I'm trying to create lists that are going to ask questions of my opponents. I like to consider scenario. I think it's really important when you're sitting down to go to a steamroller. It's all well and good to sit down and just write your list out of the models you've got painted or the models you like the look of. That's okay. But considering actually what's going to be able to hold an objective, what can I use to threaten, those elements of War Machine where what can I actually get the assassination on? Where can I help build win the attrition? Or actually, how's this going to help me with clock? How am I going to be able to get my opponent to spend more time than I will? So back in Mark II, I once run a troll list with I think something like 60 trolls. That was great at attrition. Didn't really assassinate, but it caused my problems with my clock and my opponent's clock. So back then, obviously, I was quite newer to gaming and things like that. So I now try and think of those sort of three elements when I'm creating a list. Typically, I think that while you can take two lists, obviously one's most you have to take one. You don't have to play both. If you're one of those people that's more comfortable with one list, definitely play that more. Sometimes it's quite nice to have an off list where you think actually I want to create my opponent to have a bit of a headache when they're thinking about that list chicken situation. But also there's some things to think about with considering the length of an event. So when you're playing a 3 round local event where you've got a 5 minute drive, you might think, yeah, do you know what? I'm going to try both these lists, and actually it's just a local one. I just want to enjoy. I want to get some games and a sort of different experience, and that will change the way I think of a list compared to going to the Welsh Masters where we know it's going to be 6 or 7 rounds. I don't want to play a list that's going to go to time every single game. That's going to be really mentally draining and give me a lot of cognitive load. I want some lists. I want to have a list that can go right. I know how to play it. I know what I'm doing. Let's just play War Machine because my enjoyment of the game might change massively when it's the third round of the second day, and I'm trying to remember rules from a really complex or a huge list that needs to be positioned perfectly to get the most out of it. So that's sort of where I come from when it comes to list building. And what about yourself?
Yeah, so I think we're currently with War Machine and the way spell racks work and sort of warlocks. I think it's quite easy. Generally, I think people to build a list, a primary list, which they think can take on most of the field. With being able to rack in certain spells for certain matchups. I think Brime does a good example that you can rack in Rough Seas for any warlock for a shooting matchup. You can rack in Fury Strength for any matchup you need that extra higher power. Fortify if you need something that means you can't be pushed or slammed. So I think between Spell Racker and Warlock, I tend to make one list that covers a large amount. Then I'll try and fill that with a little niche that I think my main list can't cover. Don't necessarily build for scenario, but I certainly think every list should have some units which play for those scenario elements that are hard to reach. I think Trench Warfare is a good example. Having something that can reach that back right or back left, depending where you put what side you're on. Flag is always good. Um, and then I think clock and length of event is something to keep in mind for longer events. If you're going to a 4-day steamroller and you want to play some really sort of mentally taxing lists, I think that makes sense. But if you're going to do a 7-round event and you're going to be there for 2 days and you might not sleep very well Saturday night, you might want a bit of a list that is a little bit easier on the brain for your Sunday evening. So I think sort of the length of the event comes into play. But I think currently people tend to build one list which is catch most of the field, and then a corner list which covers the rest.
Yeah. I think also for those people that are going to sort of steamroll their first couple of steamrollers as War Machine goes up, have that list that you played loads, and have a list that actually, if it doesn't go well the first couple of rounds, you can just try something else if you get frustrated. I think that's perfectly reasonable when building lists. If you've got that new model you want to try in the second list, one thing I would advise against is don't change your list the night before to something you've not played, because often you'll end up spending the games regretting that you changed it, or then getting frustrated that you've made a mistake because actually you just didn't have those reps. That's one thing I'd advise myself for anyone that's sort of going to a steamroller.
Yeah, and then I think once you've got your list locked in, I think a couple of things from our side. I think I always like doing a little pre-night sort of dice check or dice bag check, I suppose. Make sure everything's in a dice bag you expect to be there. And then make sure you've got all your widgets and your measurement sticks in your bag. And then I probably something which I think is underrated, but turning up just a bit earlier than maybe you need to, give yourself a bit of time to calm down or relax, or you don't want to be running to the event, and then straight away to your table and unpack everything, and try and make your the start of your event as panic free as possible.
If you can try and travel with a group or meet a group early but have breakfast there or whatever, that if you're a bit anxious, if you're a bit nervous about going to your first event or just every experience, just talking to people, getting rid of those little pre-game nerves really helps. Like you say, I think I always check my widgets and bags and tokens and dice and measuring sticks, tape measures, all the rest of it. Also checking your lists again, making sure that it's the list that you submitted, checking you've got all the models. I've done it before where I've gone to events and I've competed, then got home after a 2-day event and gone, oh, that's that unit that I forgot to take, that whole unit I forgot to take, and I've played points down or whatever. I think also in relation to tokens, if you're able to, I know you do it at the start of the game, you write your tokens out. I've made my own custom high quality MDF painted with my own
To be
handwriting.
fair, it's a step up from your rocks you used to write on. So.
Yeah, used to have slate from the garden. Now I've got little bits of MDF. But yeah, having those ready and just again help reducing the cognitive load you've got when you turn up at a table really helps. Having it in a separate box or a bag where you go, right, this is the stuff, this is all the stuff I need, these are the extra bits. But yeah, when you get there, yeah, make contact with other people that are there. Definitely try and sort of meet up a little bit before, like I say, turn up early. I know there are times where I've gone to Wilma Gaming events and I've been late, or cars broken down, tires burst, whether I've just been incredibly hungover. They're the ones that turns out you're not going to perform as well, and also you're not going to be as good an experience to have as be around. I think it's easy and understandable to be stressed and be a bit bit rushed and flustered if you turned up half an hour late. And you're generally not going to be as probably as pleasant as you'd usually be if you're under that sort of duress.
Yeah, absolutely. Bluffkin from the chat says, stuck in traffic on my way to the dad's. Got you guys to keep me company. Awesome. Anxious and nerves. You must be talking about me. I think a lot of wargaming type probably relate to being anxious and nervous. If anyone if in the chat could just confirm if me and Dan are of equal volume or similar volume, that would be most appreciated. So yeah, totally agree with what you're saying there, Dan. So I think they're our pre event tips. We're going to jump into this. Before you go.
Depending on, I know we do this, but you don't have to do this if you're new. But if list submission happens the night before at 6 o'clock, make sure your lists are submitted in. But also, if you've got half an hour while you're getting ready, or sometimes on the loo or whatever, read through a couple of lists just to make yourself a bit familiar with what you might see, because that also can really help get rid of the stress or worry, or just having that bit of an understanding. Okay, I'm going to an event, and actually there's loads of gun lines. That's something I need to think about. Not turning up there. I know we used to back in Mark II, where sometimes you'd look round the hall and you go, oh, everyone's got a colossal apart from me. Ugh. How am I going to deal with this? So just if you can be a little bit prepared, but you don't have to do that. It's just something, if you're going to those sort of big events, going to cons where they've got list submission, you may want to do that. If obviously you're going to somewhere that they don't have list submission before, and just don't worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Bluffkin, I have raised Dan to 140%. Dan said Bluffkin said you're a little lower. If you could let us know if we're a little closer now, and I'll adjust a little bit more, that'd be great. So yeah, I think if you can look at the list before you turn up, it's always handy. You could sort of maybe start thinking, oh, if I get paired into this guy, or you can get a general idea of what sort of the field is bringing as well. Maybe there's a few Signal players and they've all got Storm Lance Legionnaires, or I don't know, there's a few Cador players and they've all got Vilcol, whatever. And you haven't experienced that yet. You can always have a little bit of a brush up before you get there on what you might see. It's always worth it, and I love looking at other people's lists because it's a little insight into their brain.
If you're traveling with someone, have that chat on the way there, thinking which list would you drop into each person, having that chat. If you don't have to go to the level of rag rating, so red, amber, green, every single list and all the rest of it, but if you want to, sometimes that might help. And also, if you're going with a big group, it can actually be quite a laugh when you're going through the list and you're going, does anyone have an answer to this random mercenary list that no one's seen since 2016? So yeah, definitely would recommend using that sort of social side as well to bounce ideas off of friends when you go, I've never faced Infernals, what do they do?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, it's Steve in the chat. Hello, Steve. If you could let us know if Dan is the same as me now, that would be great. Yeah, I mean, like on the way to Welsh, we're just going to talk about lists the whole time, so yeah, that'd be great.
It's going to be shorts, I'm sure, on the way to Welsh.
Yeah, we'll do some shorts about a little road trip. Maybe we'll know what Infernals do by then.
Yeah.
Right. So the 6 scenarios, we've got 6 of them. We're not going to tell you how they work or what they do. We've done that before. We're just going to say our experiences with them and maybe any tips we can give you on them. So the first one is Colour Guard. Do you want to kick off?
Plan where you're going to put your flags. If you go, ideally, I think you want to go first in colour guards. Then you get to dictate which the flag goes where, and also where it can't go in the future. Have a look at the table. Think, okay, if it moves between those pieces of terrain, where eventually is it going to stop? If it's going to stop somewhere, and just be aware that your opponent's going to choose where your one goes. So have a think about your back line and where you may want to have those support units able to score future flags as well. That's my top tip for colour guard.
I think the big one for colour guard is, for example, say it's your turn 2 and you have managed to score your flag or whatever flag, your scoring flag, that's great. Just, I think the key thing for me, is, which I haven't done when I first started the game, is that even though you score it at the end of your own turn, then when you blip it to your opponent's turn, you need to be ideally in place to score where it might go, or at least contest where it might go in your own turn. So you need to be like half a turn ahead of yourself. If you've got a board and you've got a forest here, you've got 3 bits of terrain it could go to. In an ideal world, you'll either got bits to score on all those bits or bits to contest on all those bits. Because when it teleports and then your opponent takes their turn, if you've got nothing in the bit of terrain it goes to, you then give your opponent a free bit of scenario points.
I Yeah, I think that's really important as well. But also have it pausing the clock and explaining. I think with all of these, pausing the clock in between scoring rounds and saying, right, this is what's scoring. Okay, what scenario elements need to move and things like that. Just make it really clear, because all of these, it's so easy to forget if you're both just sort of rushing to get the game on.
Yeah, I think so for the Welsh Masters packet, it's after speaking to Brian and Tom, the pack says don't ever pause your clock basically. But after speaking to them, they said, a 10-second pause to say you're on 5, I'm on 3, this goes here is appropriate. And I think it's also better to do that than, leave it on someone's clock and try and do it in 2 seconds and no one knows what anyone's on and the flag's not in the right place, and just make sure everyone's clear. And also knowing where it can and can't go is also good to know, because you might pick a bit of terrain thinking it can go to X terrain the turn after and it can't. So maybe putting a little marker next to bits of terrain it's already been on something. I don't know, but being aware of where it can't go is almost sometimes as important as where it can go. So I think that's the main one for colour guard. I think because the scenario terrain is worth 2. It's one of them ones where if you can have quite a big swing in one turn if you double tap the scenarios. The scenario objective, because the actual objective is only worth 1, the 50 mil. So if you're not scoring the catch, it can be quite a low scoring game, like 1-1 by turn 2 and maybe 2-1 by turn 3. Or if you suddenly double tap these flags, you can get 4 in one go. So really prioritize the flags on colour guard and try and be almost like a turn ahead of yourself in where they can go. Apart from that, I don't think I suppose the only thing to talk about maybe is that I think it's worth having a bit of discussion, even if you're at a tournament and you get to a table and the terrain is a bit shit for colour guard. I think it's worth literally moving the terrain so you can play colour guard properly.
I think having that communication before the game starts, measure between every piece of terrain and go, right, these are the things it can go to. You don't want to get into the game where you get to that first piece of move and you go, actually, everything's half an inch out from one of yours moving and the other person gets to move the others. Just get it set up beforehand and just have that conversation to stop yourself having an awkward moment or a feel bad moment later in the game.
Yeah, I think measure it out and then just visually tell each other these are the 3 bits of terrain it can go on turn 2, and same for your opponent. Avoid any feel bad, just be really clear. Apart from that, I think it's a good scenario. I enjoy colour guard. I think people have bad experience with it because you go to a tournament table and they don't want to move the terrain, and one person's flag gets stuck in the back of their table. Well, it's not stuck, I suppose it gets to stay there. If it's your flag, you want it to stay there. So it gets to stay there and your opponent's flag comes towards you, and then your opponent feels like, well, this scenario is unfair. But if you do that, if you have that discussion before the game starts, you should be able to avoid that. Colour guard we like. Next up, scenario 2 is trench warfare. Another great scenario. I think it's a good one. I think for me, what have I taken away? First of all, if you are planning to play a shooting list and your opponent has loads of infantry, be prepared for it to be in cover for most of the game. Me being a Brian Bloods dude, I freaking love it. I like duck and cover the unit on one side. The other guys are all in cover and blast resistant. So is this unit. You cast rough seas. Unless you've got sprays, it's really hard to shoot it, and it's all blast resistant. So when picking your list, I think keep in mind that warrior heavy lists on trench warfare are likely to be blast resistant and in cover most of the game.
And don't get caught out when you choose your 50mm warcaster or warlock or war noun and you think they've got cover, and you're like, no, it's only
Well,
40s and 30s.
40 and 50. Yeah, it's only 30 and 40. Oh no,
Yeah,
medium and small. Yeah, medium and small.
yeah.
Yeah,
So your large base will not get
the
cover.
cover or blast
Um,
distance.
so yeah, just what, and also weirdly, just within. It's not going to be behind, so you can be in front of it. Just be aware if you're the war noun or model could be in front of the objective. You're thinking, well, line of sight, it's not blocked, it's not going to have cover. Well, it just has. So just
Yeah,
watch out for it.
and it's not wholly within as well for the
Yeah,
cover, so you can just
yeah,
tap it and be in. I think it's quite common really for people to use their leader models to score the 40 millimeters on this one. Just hang back. If you can be behind it and not in kill box and having cover. So it's quite common for leaders to score the 40 millimeters here. Another thing I suppose to think about is that you can never score your own flag.
yeah.
Sometimes you can easily forget that because you're putting the flag down. You think you can score it. So it's another one where I think this is an excellent scenario to have a unit that can ambush. If your opponent, you have like in a game against David, he had to keep a whole monstrosity on his back flag because I had a boarding party sitting on the back of the table. Like if you move off it, I will score it. Yeah. So and if people forget to do that, it's 2 points for the flag. So it's really massive. So I think forcing your opponent to protect the flag is really valuable.
Yeah. My last point would be watch out for the cache. So I think so many people forget that the cache is 2 VP, and you can stop it by just having a model within it, to stop it from being destroyed. But it's if you're trying to stay out of threat ranges, it can very easily be, okay, right, I'm just staying out here. You're like, fine, I'm just going to score that, and then that feeling of, oh no, what have I done, can come in. So yeah, just be aware that you want to keep the cache contested.
I think it's one that has big potential for scoring. If you cash and flag, it's 4 just for those two. So there's also 4 more objectives you could score. So you could score 8 in one turn on trench. So it can be a high scoring game. Bear in mind you contest your own flag at the back. Ideally, have something that goes to threaten the flag at the back, and be aware of the cover and keep your catches protected. I think probably maybe my favourite scenario.
Yeah, for me it is. I think that if you're a newer player, just be aware of it and read it up because there can be quite a lot of things to think about and consider, if you were going to your first Steamroller, and that's one of the scenarios that's going to be played.
Yeah, it feels like one of the most active scenarios that you're actually playing for, right? There's other scenarios which will come on later, which feel like you can just sort of ignore them and play the game. Whereas Trench Warfare feels like you have to actually play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good scenario, and keep in mind those things. Next up, we've got Well, I feel like the first 3 scenarios are all really good, and then it goes down from here. The next one is Wolves at Our Heels. So this one has 2 unique things, really. First of all, that starting on the first player's 3rd turn, the kill box starts pushing up. So by turn 7, you lose 8 inches of the kill box, which is quite a lot, really. Could keep in mind those Signal players. And the second one is that if you control your 40mm, you're able to push it complete. I think is it completely or just towards? Just towards. So you don't even you can move it to the right and just towards a little bit. But if that manages to go over across the middle center line, you get 3 extra VPs, and that's can only be scored once per game. What do you feel about Wolves, Dan?
I love the increase of kill box. I think it makes you have to actually eventually put your caster into threat range. It stops the very boring, I'm going to sit at the back and just stay right on the edge and shoot you and all the rest of it. So I think that's great. I don't think that's going to catch most people out, but I think it's just something to consider that if you're one of those players that likes to be sort of more passive and stand back and shoot or do spells or debuffs and things, you need to actively move forward. And then find the fact that the 40mm can go for the centre, if it does eventually go over the centre, that can swing to win a game. So just be aware of that, aware of the positioning. Importantly, it has to move towards, but because it's a 40mm, depending on where they've placed their unit, remember you can't place the 40mm under a model that's already there. So you can unintentionally or intentionally block the scenario element from moving with models or terrain. So if you've got a building in the way and things like that. So that's one thing I found. Just again, thinking about how you're going to place your units, especially if you've got 5 or 6 man units. Think, okay, actually, where is it going to be? Because you'll probably want to score it the following turn as well. And if that's when you're the inactive player, you need to think about actually where can I actually move it to? Because otherwise it's going to be stuck in the same place.
Yeah, that's a great point for moving and units because it's really, really easy to block it with your own unit because of the way units
Yeah.
score. Especially if you've got a 5 man unit that's trying to score it and let it move. It can be really tricky. So yeah, good shout about that. If you are scoring it and both want to move it, you need to be in a way that you can score it, move it, and then still score it, or at least contest it. Otherwise, you just give your opponent to score it for free. And generally, I find it's not a super high scoring game. You know, there is 6 objectives, but the ones in the middle are quite close and they're quite easy to contest. So that free VP, when you get it, if you push really hard on that turn, can be like a game clincher. Yeah, that's Wolves. Next up is Payload. So I suppose there's two things that to keep in mind with Payload. One is that the 50 millimeters can get pushed up in during the game, and if it touches your opponent's flag, either gets into the terrain or touches a bit of terrain that you can't enter, you can remove it and score 3 points. It's worth noting you have to remove it. Yeah, so you give up a VP a turn if you're currently in control to get your free VP. Debatable if you want to do that. And then also, as well as that, when it moves, a cohort model within 3 of the terrain piece itself can move directly towards it. I believe it's called, I can't remember the unique, it's not got a unique term. A player securing 50-minute objective can move the objective up to 3 towards it. And then also a cohort model can then move directly towards that. So that's something to keep in mind in someone's threat range, like on my threat range 10, where if they push the payload and they've moved towards the payload, they're going to get a bit more on their threat. So keep in mind. And then I suppose the other thing is terrain with payload. I'll let you talk about that, Dan.
Yeah, so terrain, when you are choosing your flag terrain, please be very aware what your opponent's objective could be going towards. If you choose a piece of terrain where you think, oh, I'll be able to score it easily, but actually it's larger and it goes slightly further towards that other objective, be aware that can be it can really cause issues. Please be aware of that. I think it catches people out. Yes, that's I don't have a lot of nice things to say about payload.
You rather keep quiet than talk shit about payload.
I think you need to play it. I'm really not looking forward to playing it at the Welsh. I don't look forward to playing it ever. Having played with it multiple times, I just think it's
I think right, 3 things. First of all, Sherwin is in the chat. Hello, buddy. How are you? Thanks for joining us. Secondly, I have turned Dan up. If people could let me know if Dan is similar volume to me, I'd be really grateful. Thirdly, I think there's no fact we don't really like payload. I find it really low scoring. So you win the game, you can't score your scenario terrain. That's purely there for purposes of pushing. So your maximum is 4 a turn. Typically, you score your own cohort because it's quite far back, offset each other. So you tend to score your own cohort, fight over the unit in the middle, fight over the 2 unit ones in the middle, and then whoever sort of comes out on top of the brawl tends to win on scenario. So I don't find this a very active scenario to play for, and I find similar to Colour Guard, if you turned up to a table at a tournament and they weren't very even at all, you might have a bad experience where your opponent could very easily get their flag into their 50mm into your flag and you can't. So maybe have a.
It's probably worth one of the only ones where it's really worth choosing the side, because you could screw over your opponent from ever being able to score the other part if there's a big building in the way or things like that. Just be aware.
Agreed.
I think it's worth. Also watch out for assassination, because I think this is the scenario where actually it's going to end up with an assassination, because you're not, like you say, scenario's not as active. The attrition's going to be in the middle. Yeah, that can swing either way. But actually, I'm finding more often than not, your caster's got to get in a position because it's got to do work, or they've got, and actually you end up with a caster kill. Just watch out for that.
Got to do some work. That is payload. Next up is two fronts. Now, I initially I didn't really like two fronts, but I'm coming around to it. I think it's not as bad as I maybe gave it. I gave it a bit of kicking the first time we reviewed it.
You did, and you were wrong, and that's okay.
Uh,
So
and I think I would say there's four good scenarios and two I don't like now, and two fronts is in my I like it bucket now. I took it out of the bin and I put it in my like it bucket.
okay. But to play, so a big thing with two fronts is you're going to be fighting you 50 mil one side, 40 mil other. Blue player, second player gets to choose where the flag is. This is a scenario I think is really good to teach people when they're learning the game, because it means you've got to think about where you want to position units and cohort models, and you've still got that central flag to try and score. One thing I would definitely advise is, if you're going heavy on one side, be aware your opponent could also go heavy on the other side. So you typically want to deploy in the centre and give yourself options to score on both. And also you want to contest. If you're not going to go heavy on a side, you still want to be able to contest it so they don't get that double score. When you do get that double score, it's obviously a really big spike in points. You want to make sure you're double scoring, and really sometimes it's a case of one army clears one side, the other army clears the other, and you sort of do a pendulum movement of around it, which again means that actually sometimes it's not necessarily winning on scenario, it's actually winning on assassination, like Steve did the other day with against my Hazaroth. I think that two fronts is something you've definitely got to consider. You could lose on deployment. If you, for some reason, chose to deploy your units on the side that's going to score cohorts, and your cohort on the side that scores units, that could obviously, you could just lose the game pretty much on that. Double scoring is huge. Large bases, particularly for the cohort, is a huge, but also positioning of units for those double 40s. You won't typically be able to score one unit, won't be able to score two objectives with the 40 mil. But if unless it's got three models, I'm finding three models you can get into as well. There's a perfect place where actually you can score both of them, because they're both within three. Just be aware of that. Be aware that you want to keep really actively engaged in the scenario and keep moving your center up, because I think also if you start to dominate the center, you can score one side, dominate the center, you're going to probably push through a caster kill, or just really consolidate that scenario win and contest the other later in the game. It's definitely one that I think I'd recommend. Lots of people play two fronts as an intro and as a sort of way to get ready to play on Steamroller.
Yeah, absolutely. Sherwin says, scenario tier list when? Well, funny enough, we did do very early on in the day. We did do a scenario tier list. Maybe we revisit it in a few months.
So this is more about just because I think Trevor enjoyed the chat. He's probably been watching live since the start, because he's obviously a huge fan. No, we're just talking about tips and everything for the going to the Steamroller using 2025. But yeah, there is definitely we have a tier list we've done previously. Aaron obviously just admitted that he was wrong about two fronts, and I was right. But we both agreed that
we both agree that payload can stay in the bin, though.
Yeah.
Sherwin, and why is OG incursion S tier? How to raise bait. It was what it was. With two fronts, I would say the only thing I say to keep in mind of is that double score, and especially if your opponent is going second, it can be worth really heavily overcommitting. So if your opponent's going second, first of all, they're going to put the flag. They get the choice of the flag, right? So they're probably going to have that in a favourable position. And if they're turn two, they can push really hard and just score, say, their own 50 or 40, and then one side and the flag, and contest you a 6-0 at that point. If you can double score one side, score your own, say I double score the 40 mils, score my own 50, contest your 50 and score the flag, 6 points then. And it can actually be, if you overcommit and expect to lose 80% of your army, but they can't score enough back, you win. And I think that's a really sometimes people can get caught out by that on two fronts, and they aren't expecting such a big swing in turn two.
I think it's one of those that if you misplay it, the game can be over very quickly because of that double scoring. And that's where you need to be really conscious of it, like say from deployment, turn one, if you're going first or if you go second, the game does change quite dramatically in this scenario. And you want to make sure that you're in a position to keep on going with the fight. Um, but yeah, I think it's a great scenario. But also just for new players, just think about your positioning. Also, don't just put your whole cohort on the cohort side. Still have something in the middle, because as soon as you just go too far over with your whole cohort on one side, it then often means you've not got a heavy hitter in the middle, and that's where your lines can be broken as such, and they can swing across.
It's one also I'd say that can be it can be tough for Control 12 casters.
Yes.
If it's really spread out. So if one's 10 inch from the edge and one's 12 inch edge, that's 22. So you've got a 48 board. So then you're playing on 6 inches of the table in the middle, and you've only got like a 40-50 millimeter base and Control 12. It can be really hard sometimes to have a cohort model on each side. It can force you to be further up than you like as well. If you want to try and get a 50 millimeter onto your opponent's 50 millimeter, you have to be Control 12. You have to be basically in the middle of the table. So just be aware that if you're Control 12, it can be a tight scenario if you want to try and play aggressive with your cohorts.
Finally,
But
I'd add that. Yeah.
you
Oh,
go.
sorry, you go. Sorry. No, you go. I thought you were finished. Sorry.
I didn't really know where I was going with my last but, so you go ahead.
Finally, I'd say this is the one scenario where actively pressuring your opponent's clock can have a huge impact. So if you do get to score your own and you can jam up, if you've got a unit that can stop a model moving or shooting or activating things like that, if you've got a unit that can just jam the hell out of things, they really get their value, because even if you're not double scoring, if you can stop your opponent contesting yours, that's where again you're just going to end up getting ahead on scenario and being in a more favourable position. So they've got to overextend or threaten all the rest of it. So definitely think about using your turn one to really race up, get in position, and then spend turn two or three just again trying to get through quite quickly. Just doing the things that are almost do the minimum that will needed to keep it alive on the scenario. Don't overthink that you've got to go for assassination unless you are really down in the dumps.
Yeah, absolutely. A great point. So, and says worth mentioning the 80 millimeter super heavy cohorts here, or a Jack Marshall if you are, say, low on control range, or you just want something that's fully self efficient. You don't have to manage, but also you can score a cohort completely on one side. The 80 millimeters are really useful here. Because they're they can hold that cohort down on that side completely by themselves. Then you can shift your warlock or warcaster to the right hand side or left hand side, and you can play essentially both areas of the table then without worrying about control. So yeah, great shout from Sherwin.
Where Big Pig for me, it has been, this is where Big Pig shine, to be able to go, you and Carver, you're staying there, you're scoring that, and you're going to also be able to pitch people back, and you can sort of threaten. The rest of my army's going to go to the other side or the centre. So yeah, definitely agree with that.
Yeah, and Big Pig's really nice. He's probably got the most effective guns out of all three. So hanging him just on the edge, if you want to commit, say, to the 40 millimeter side, he's very good at just hanging on the edge of your own objective, scoring it, contesting it, obviously, but also firing them guns. He's a great choice for that. Right, next up we've got best laid plans. So with this one, there's everything in the beginning, and then at the end of turn one, I think it's the first player, the person going first. Second player's first turn. The end of the second player's first turn. Oh, it's the second player that rolls it. You roll a d3, and some of them can disappear. If you roll a 1, the catches go. A 2 is the 40 millimeter, and 3 is the 50 millimeter. So I suppose for this one, the main thing I find is try not to deploy too heavy to one side until you know what disappears.
Yeah, stay central. Keep a really strong centre, but also don't have all your units on that left hand side if you're a blue player. Have the option and that manoeuvrability to get there. Sometimes support pieces are quite good, but again in this one, I think if you look to dominate the centre, it doesn't matter whether if the 50 mil goes, you can flex to both sides, and you've still got a strong core that they're going to have to fight through. It's one of the I really enjoy the scenario, and I think it's really good the fact that you don't know, it can be different every time you play it, and I love that. I love the fact it's not going to be stagnant. But yeah, I know you're shaking your head.
I mean, you finish your point. Don't let me. Don't let me.
I think it's really incursion in Mark 4 is the best. It's great. I my downside to it is I don't like the fact it's got a cache. I think if because caches can only be scored once, um, I would be happier if the caches instead were flags on that side, and we just got rid of the caches there if we were talking about design of a scenario. But otherwise, I actually really like it. I don't necessarily think it's the most competitive minded scenario, but I definitely think it's really fun and engaging and better than Payload. So yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's better than the worst scenario. I can give you that. So I think the only problem I have with the thing I dislike about best laid plans is that if the catches stay, and say you remove, say the 40 millimeters, you end up with two flags that are very easy to score yourself. Then just some big mosh pit in the middle over these two 50 millimeters, with catches that you can only score once. So I tend to find that it becomes a bit of just a brawl in the middle till someone dies enough that the opponent scores enough to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my. And then if the 50 millimeters go, you then what I've found in the games I've played is people just ignore the catches, and you end up just start playing on this side of the table, and they just get ignored. So I quite like that it's variable. I just don't like that if the catches stay. I think the game just becomes really low scoring, and it's just a bit of a mosh pit.
Personally, I just liked if this scenario had where caches return, like I don't know something. It just I it's more the issue is the fact that you caches a score once. Yeah, they're worth two VP, but when you've got to be three VP ahead to win the game,
Right, and if your
yeah,
opponent commits something to the catch, say like a unit, then you don't. Even though they get the two VP, you've got your whole unit on the actual side that matters. I'm not the biggest fan. I think for me, payload's bottom, and best laid plans is fifth. Then I think they're all the other ones are great to play. Maybe any of them, the rest are all just good. Um, maybe we'll do another tier list, but we're no point because we'll just put payload in a bin.
nice.
Yeah, good.
I think top tip for this as well is scoring your own flag. Really important. Um, Making sure that you are considering which flag or where you're going to position that terrain. It's important for every game, um, but making sure that you are going to always score that. You need to make because otherwise, again, it's an easy point to score. Yes, it will need support, and again, some lists when we go back to list discussion at the start, having that model that doesn't have to be actively engaged in the fight on the front lines can sometimes really help in all of these scenarios.
Yeah, yeah. Sharon says ambushes come into their own, gives you a later deployment when you're more informed about which side is most important. Agree. I think if you can, I would take a unit of ambushes in every list that you play because trench warfare they're great. They're great in this. They're also two fronts. They're pretty good because the 40 mil is quite close to the edges, so they're quite good at coming on and being annoying. Ambushes in general are great. That is the 6 scenarios. How do you feel overall about Steamroller 2025, Dan?
I think so. Having played Steamroller 2024, having played in Mark 3 with I can't remember which pack I played up to, and played in Mark 2. It is, I think, the general rules and abilities of the pack have been really streamlined. I like it. I think there's a couple of scenarios where payload. I don't. I just I don't understand how it survived last year. From what I was seeing online, it wasn't liked last year. I don't think it's been improved. Having heard, I'll be quite honest with you, having listened to a podcast at the start of the year when they were going over the January 2025 changes, I was quite surprised to hear some of the arguments for payload when I didn't feel the game, if you actually played it, or the community, I don't feel it was in keeping with what everyone else was saying. I think, yeah, payload for me is just a big blot on it, but otherwise really like it. I think that the rest of the scenarios, I think I can understand what you're saying about best laid plans. I think it's also important to have that scenario that is a bit of variance, but I do think it can be sort of tweaked a little bit. I think that the inclusion of kill box in every scenario is great because again, it stops everyone being quite passive. I think generally it's much clearer as a document. Having played last year, where you had triangles, you had circles, and it wasn't very clear what was what. I do miss that solos don't score a specific thing. That's something that I'd happily have back. I really liked in Mark 3 when they moved to different zones being scored by different things, so your list design could be impacted with that. But yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with it apart from payload. And there's other bits about we spoke last week about. I wish that the spell rack, if it was going to be there, was something you created at list creation, not at the start of every game when after you know what you're facing. But yeah, otherwise I'm really happy with it. I've really enjoyed playing it this year. Yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's as a document also being free online on the app. It's really easy for new players having trying to teach Steve. I think it's really good the fact that it's all there and really clear now. Yeah, and if we talk about, we know we're going to get onto it, but sort of inputting data and putting in results things on Longshanks, I think it works really well. Sort of with that community app.
Yeah, agreed. I think Steamroller packet is good. I think it would be nice if there was something for solos to do, not just score flags. Would be would be nice because I feel like cohorts and units have got their own objectives and that works really well. It would be nice if maybe a solo did something unique as well because then you've got everything covered. You've got cohort units and solos. Um, but I think that's good. I
If the
think. Pardon.
if cash was that actually you don't destroy it, but only a solo gets to score it, that might make a bit of a difference. But then also you get the problem where is it just going to be a case of you're going to assassinate someone's solos and then you're just going to score on there? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. It would be just nice if solos had maybe something they could do. Um, but I think all the scenarios are good apart from payload. Okay, I don't have best laid plans, but that is what it is. I think there's always some sort of scenario which has some random element, but I just don't like
yeah,
payload. I think scoring on each other's turn is really good.
yeah,
I think Killbox on a scenario is good. I've really enjoyed Steamroller 2025, so all in all, it's a positive review for me.
yeah.
So that's the packet and what we think about it, and some little tips about the scenarios. Just a quick one, really, on putting your information onto Longshanks post game. Dan, do you want to take us away on that?
Yeah, so having organised several events now and also participating in yours, I think one thing that's been really good with the community is Longshanks with able to get data. I think it makes it really easy for organisers. I can remember back, I don't know what the app was when you were a press ganger and you had to, it was like seemed like a spreadsheet
Do
where you had to
you?
then work out strength schedule things. So I really like the fact that we've got Longshanks, but one thing you need to do is make sure at the end of your game you sit down with your opponent, and whether it's been heated at the end or it's been a great laugh, sitting down and making sure you've counted how many points they destroyed, full points, and you don't get half points anymore. Make sure you know exactly how many scenario points you've got, putting that data in accurately, making sure you've made it clear who the winner is, because sometimes if you're on Longshanks and you don't put that someone got the assassination and won, sometimes it does some weird things. You've got to make it really clear who assassinated, but also putting in who went first. I think it's great that we've got that community resource that's free for the point of access to be able to see and go, oh look, this person played this person. This is the list they chose. This is the caster. And one thing I would definitely encourage people to do as an extra top tip going to a steamroller is if you've got to round 2 or 3 and you using Longshanks and you get your pairings, you're not sure who they are, or you've got 5 minutes, have a quick look and go, oh, what list they used so far? What have they done? Have they always chose to go? Have they always gone first? You don't know who won the roll off, by the way, but have they always gone first? Have they always gone second? Have they always used Ragemonger? Have they scored? Have they won all their games on scenario? Have they won all their games on assassination? Again, it's just something that it might take 5 minutes just to have a quick look at. But when it does come to an end of game, really taking the time to make sure everything's accurate, agreeing everything, and then if you have any problems, do go over to your TO. It's pretty easy to fix on Longshanks. But you need to make sure that's done before the round is over or the round is then being drafted for the next round. There's nothing worse than finding you've got a problem, then having to try and what's it called, match people.
Yeah, like repair
Um,
people. Yeah.
repair people, that's it. I definitely would encourage people, if you get the opportunity, to go onto Longshanks. Make sure you list again when you're submitting lists, make sure it's the list that you've actually submitted. I know there's been other game systems where there's been other community-led sites where you've submitted your list, or other games where you might have to give in a list sheet and things like that. If you have printed it off, make sure it's the one that's paired with the one that's on the app. On Longshanks, make sure your phone's paired with what you've got there. You do not want to be that person that submits one list, gets halfway through a tournament, or at the end of a tournament, someone goes, "Hang on a second, you weren't using the models you had in their list," and whether you did it intentionally or not, it's a feel bad, and also you don't want to come across as someone that's gone, "Oh." So don't want to have the opportunity for someone to turn around and go, "You changed your list after you looked around the room, you saw everyone's lists involved, you saw what I was facing, then you added that solo that was my, the silver bullet to my list," or something like that. And if that's just also being about clean play and being a decent, honest human being. So that's what I do. Just a bit on Longshanks. Yourself, anything else? Any other sort of little bits on Longshanks or?
A quick thing from the chat. Steve says, "Nice haircut, Dan." I do agree. It's not handsome Dan for no reason. And Sherwin says he looks quite dapper. The chat are loving it. Steve, if you think that me and Dan are more similar volume now, I would appreciate a comment on that. That would be great. But in terms of Longshanks, really fantastic resource. Yeah, the old program we used was called DoU. It was a little like Java-based program. So we've come a long way from that. Yeah, I think the main thing with Longshanks is when you're putting your thing in, just putting in the forced win. If you don't put it in and someone's got more scenario points than someone else and you put scenario, that will be correct. If you don't touch it and someone assassinated someone, but someone's got more scenario and you don't put forced win and you don't put a win type, that will put you in as an incorrect win. And then the worst bit is if you do that and no one knows and then you draw the round, that is a real nightmare then, having to rewind. Just a bit of communication. Also about army points, make sure you're both happy with the army points you've got. And then worth letting your opponent sort of like, "I'm going to put this result in." Like, they can double check it and be, "Oh yeah, you've got that correct." Yeah, so
Yeah.
save your TO
On that,
redrawing.
on that note, I forgot to mention throughout the Steamroller, if you get assassinated, that's not the immediate end of the game. You still score at the end of the round. I think it was one of my first Steamrollers. We had Robbie got assassinated, I think it was turn 1 or something ridiculous, and try and actually explain that you still score it, or it must have been turn 2, but you're still scoring then. So again, just being aware that there might be a moment where you get really excited and think, "Oh, brilliant, I've won." Don't suddenly pick up all your models, don't move things. Think, okay, at the end of that, who's scoring what, who's contesting. So if you're in those later rounds, and potential tiebreakers might be important to you or to the event, think about, okay, what can I have contesting that zone, what can I have score that zone before I go to that assassination, if I'm pretty happy that it's going to happen. That's just something extra just to think about.
It does make a big difference. Steve says, "Sounds good, great." So hopefully me and Dan are of similar level now, which is fantastic. But it does make a big difference because after strength of schedule as your first tiebreaker, it goes to VPs. So
Yeah,
if you think that you're playing like trench warfare, and you do your activations and kill your opponent's caster against, maybe you get their catch and a flag and an extra objective, you get 5 VPs that you miss out on, which is
yeah.
quite a lot when it's the second tiebreaker. So yeah, absolutely. If you're gonna get your opponent's warcaster or warlock or leader, try and get all the scenario elements you can, because when you kill them, you score another turn. Well, the turn ends there and you score. So
Yeah.
that's
Also, you mentioned strength of schedule. So easiest way to describe strength of schedule, having gone from different game systems, and also going from Flesh and Blood that doesn't use strength of schedule, and then One Piece recently I've started playing that does use strength of schedule. Just simply understand it that the people you played, you want to make sure they get as many wins as they can. So actually, it's really beneficial for you after a game to go, "Here's where you went wrong. Here's what you could do next time to improve." Because if that person you beat round 1 wins more games, it's more beneficial to you than if they lose all their games. So that's a big thing to think about. Don't go to an event thinking, "Oh, I'm just going to smash this person. I don't. Oh, that's it, done." Don't just think they're some sort of loser. Try and actively help them improve, or ask for improvement yourself, because it's for the best interest of everyone you play for you to perform better for strength of schedule. Because strength of schedule is simply the amount of wins your opponent opponents, your total opponents have compared to other opponents, things like that. So if you're someone that has won all your games, but you've only played against people that have only won one or two games, they've lost all the rest. Actually, your strength schedule is going to be quite low compared to if you're someone that you might have lost a couple of games, but if you've played only lost to people that have won all their games, and all the people you beat have won most of their games, that's going to be better. So just think of that as well. If you're going to a steamroller, it's you don't have to be too hyper competitive in the sense of not wanting to see other people improve.
Yeah, absolutely. And the easiest way to explain it is that if you beat someone and then they win their second game, your strength schedule is now one. And then you do that for all of your opponent's games, and that gives you a number. That's your strength schedule. Um, yeah. Okay. Great. So, and I think what we'll talk a bit about as well is you've done the steamroller, you've put your results in correctly, you've had your day, you've gone 0-4, you've gone 4-0. Regardless, I think it's always good to have a bit of reflection on the day and how your games went, and not so much if you rolled bad or good dice, but is there any trends? Did you go second on 3 games and lose all those 3 games? Did you lose on scenario 3 times or get assassinated 3 times? Was there a particular matchup you thought, oh wow, that was really tough? Maybe you can go back and look at your list and try and adjust that. But I think a bit of self-reflection after every steamroller is always healthy.
Yeah, and the big focus needs to be on what you can do to improve. There's nothing worse than being a salty winner or salty loser or a bad winner. Think about, be reflective. Think about what you could do to improve. How things didn't go right, but actually, did you make the right decisions? Don't moan about dice. Dice happen. Top tip for anyone that feels they do moan about dice: buy some chess dice, buy some casino dice, buy some backgammon dice. So you know that they're as mathematically engineered as possible to be rolling even, average, and just go with it. Sometimes dice happen, and you can be like, do you know what? I need to roll a 3, and I rolled a 2. Okay, but don't dwell on it. There have been a lot of other choices and other decisions you could have made that things could have been going better. It's never just dice. Even if that's and again, like we said before, celebrate your opponent's successes, and have that time to reflect. Don't take it too seriously. Have a laugh. Have joke. I know we spoke before about how we've changed and grown up and matured during our sort of our gaming lives. But make sure also you think at the end of the day, did you enjoy it? Was it worth it? Because there's been definitely times where I've played certain systems where I've won an event, gone 4-0, and I thought, actually, you know what, I've not really enjoyed playing the game. It wasn't the people, it was the game. But there's other times where I've lost all my games and gone, you know what, I've loved it, I want to play again, and let's try and arrange more games and all the rest of it. So just try and enjoy it as much as possible, but definitely that time to reflect, and sometimes also being aware that straight after a result is sometimes not the time to give someone some feedback if they're not wanting it. This hobby is full of variety of different people. Some people, and most people, should have a really good growth mindset and go, you know, well, actually, what could I've done right better there? Not accusing, not like, oh, there's nothing I could do. Like, oh, any tips in that? That's really good. But sometimes you could just tell by someone's body language, their tone, how they're presenting, and go, you know, well, actually, I'll give you 5 minutes, and when we're at the bar, when we're having lunch, you're going to have that. Say, by the way, if you just did that, that would have helped you. So just be aware of it.
Yeah, I think so on the war table sort of side, there's a lot of new players mixed with a lot of experienced players in the current league, and it's been quite nice to see that. I think most experienced players want new players to do better. So that's been really great to see. And in terms of sort of like reflection, you don't have to go this far. I'm just a dork, but I built myself a little spreadsheet, of who I played, the matchup. Did I go first or second? Did I win or lose? Did I win on scenario? And just like matchup number, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can like give yourself some really good feedback if you want to. You don't have to do that in depth, but I think the main thing is that as a person, I think it's nice to see some growth after 3 months, 6 months, a year of playing the game. And it can probably be frustrating after 6 months if you go 0-4 in your first event and 6 months later you still go 0-4. You might naturally be a bit frustrated. So I think allowing yourself a bit of reflection and hopefully some growth from that will also get you a bit more enjoyment out of steamrollers.
I think one thing we did in Mark 2, and Sherwin and me used to do it, we had an app where we'd log all our results and everything. With Longshanks, obviously that does it for you when you go to events. But one thing to really be aware of, I think it's great if you've got a spreadsheet or things like that, but don't go chasing results. Think about what you're learning and the experience on the way, because if you start to think, oh, I have to win. Generally, when we came back to that sort of being fun to play against and play with, and having that joint experience, you can turn into someone that you might not be as comfortable looking in the mirror if you're just focusing on getting that win.
Yeah, you got to keep things in perspective. Uh, and I think if you ever want to win more than yourself or your opponent having fun during the game, you've probably crossed into a path that only lies hate, as a Sith would say. But just keep in mind that ultimately the game is a cooperative experience between two people, and even though one of you has to win and one of you has to lose, the only real objective between those two people is to have a good time in between it, really.
Yeah. And
Excellent.
yeah. And be honest, and it's okay to say you want to win. It's okay. You've not designed a list to lose. It's okay. You've not come all the way to a steamroller to lose all your games. We all get it, and it's an easy response to go. You've lost your first three, and you go, you know what? I'm going to win the spoon. No one. It also feels terrible if you have someone that throws a game to win the spoon to get if they get more price or whatever. That's terrible. No, still try have some sense of self-respect. Try and play the game, but also have that perspective to go, actually, let's be honest, no one's turned up here to just turn up and put their models down and let their opponent do everything and just collect losses at the end of the day and go home. Like, it's okay to want to win, it's okay sometimes to be frustrated a little bit, but just be aware of how you're presenting that and own it as well.
You need to bring up page 5. Play like you got a pair.
Yeah.
No, I
I mean,
think I agree. Just if you everyone wants to fucking win, right? Okay. Some people say I don't play the game to win. That is true. Very true. You don't play the own to win, but I think most people would like to get a win here and there. So no one needs to go to a table and be like, oh yeah, well I don't mind if you win or I don't mind if I lose. Let's just all be honest. We all would like to win. We all got respect for each other, and if you don't win, it is what it is.
yeah, if you've chosen to not bring a battle group, like, maybe I'd actually believe that you are not caring about the result, but I think you do. So, like, yeah,
Just own it.
yeah,
So it
yeah,
says Iron Grudge. Was that the app you used to use?
yeah. I think I was. But I don't know if it's still around. I mean, I would still love to see back my data from Mark Two. Yeah, I think it was Iron Grudge. It was
Yeah.
red and blue and it had a cog.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think logging games is really helpful. Like I said, I suppose the only thing you don't want to do is log games and then think, oh, if I lose, I'm gonna have to write this loss on my spreadsheet.
yeah.
Don't worry about that. If you lose,
Well,
it doesn't matter.
I'll be completely honest to the viewers. Steve is our new player. I have yet to beat him.
Hmm.
He has beaten me. I think he's assassinated me actually in every single game we've played. So it's getting a bit embarrassing. I'm still going to play him. I think I've got 5 more games to try and get him good and teach him
Nice.
teach him all the ways. But yeah, it's getting to the stage now where I think I might just have to go full Tyrus and feet and kill him turn two.
Just really break him in. It has to be done at some point. Um, okay, well I think we've done well on covering Steamroller. I'd say we've probably got about what's the time? Say 15 minutes more to cover.
Yeah,
We can just talk a bit in general about War Machine. You've
yeah,
had your new free mount, or not free mount, but you've had your new Frozen and Fury. You've seen your side of the box now. Anything that
yeah.
stands out for you?
Yeah, so I can't wait to get those models. I can't wait to get the other half of the faction so I can actually start trying the Fury side. Let's just say that that 4 point solo is going in almost every list because quite like that. And I'm sad to say that Slayers will need something else coming in January because they are being replaced by the Last Hunt. The Last Hunt are coming for you with their Weapon Master, giving a battle blast, charging them in, power 10, Weapon Master, extra dice, boosted because the charge, 5 dice,
It's
yeah.
27 on average.
Yeah, well,
So eight,
I'll take it.
7 damage to an armor 20 model. It's pretty good.
Yeah, models look great. Yeah, and the Nissa Rissel, one of my favourite models back in
She's
the
got
old
like
retro.
a weapon master bow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, I can't wait to get them. I can't wait to paint them. They're on the or they're going to be on their way. I know I've done a joint order. One thing I would say about these not starter boxes, these two army boxes, it's great to be able to share them with a friend, and I think it's actually really nice to be able to go. Do you know what? We can split it. And both get excited. Me and Rid are excited for the box. Rid's going to be playing the Orgoth side. Yeah, cannot wait to get them. I'd love it to turn up before Welsh, and I would definitely be putting some of those models into my lists. Yeah, would thoroughly recommend any Dusk player picking it up if you can. I think the Orgoth as well. I love the iconography of them. I think visually they're stunning. I like the Tomb Kings vibe as well. And yeah, I'm excited for it. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what else comes. I'm also, I know you were interested in Old Umbre, and we're going to probably talk about them in the future. I know you got sent some stuff from SFG. I am really looking forward to Kithgard because I miss my trolls, and I'm interested to see when eventually we get more information about Kithgard. And seeing the sculpt and seeing the range, I want some big evil looking trolls rather
Some
than some stupid pirates. Yeah, I've said it.
fucking Marauder crew. Uh, uh, um, so Steve said, absolutely rubbish. Dan's an ace coach and very forgiving, lots of charity roles and advice. Dan is great person to play and learn from. I have a question for you actually, unprepared
Yeah,
question. Why are you not running Kruger in any of your lists?
I am.
You are in Tyrus.
Sorry. So in Moraine and in Tyrus, I have Kruger. It's so
That
the
guy is
re
so annoying.
Yeah, he's really good, and I haven't done a pro paint job on him, but I was happy with the paint job I did. Um, yeah, he's in. Yeah,
He's in
he's great.
Kruger.
I
Yeah.
re
That guy is
yeah,
a
really like.
terror. That guy is a terror.
Yeah, fully boosted sprays turns out pretty good. Who knew?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
thankfully he also has the best pop and drop, like pop up, drop down. Oh,
Hmm.
everyone within 2 inches. Have some fire. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
pretty good. I
when I
mean,
read his little placement rule, I thought there would be like a negative at the end. Like, instead of moving, you can place, and I was like, oh okay, but and it ended. I was like, oh, he's explosive.
just remember that the internet after the January update was like Kruger 2 or Kruger 4, whatever number he is. Yeah, I mean, thankfully he's got 10 wounds as well, and he
Yeah.
hyper regens. And yeah, I need to play him more. So I played him a fair amount. When we've played, I've not typically played him because you've got this guy that has a character
Yeah.
assassination
OP.
within his
OP.
card. Yeah. So yeah, but no, I need to get some games in more with Kruger. Yeah, he's always in the effectively off list for me, or
Fair.
in the
Fair.
one of the things.
Yeah,
I don't like.
we need to do Fire Queen to Tyrus, don't we? We need to
We
do
do.
that. Okay, that was a question I thought in my brain. How has your Phantasm experiences gone so far? Has it
Um,
survived any game
uh,
yet?
yes, thank you,
Okay.
thank you. It survived
One,
2 games
two.
out of the 4 games I've no 4 or 5 games. One game was a proxy game, so I didn't actually have it on the table. It was a base. Yeah, it survived 2 of those games. And those 2 games, it got the assassinations.
And it was
Pretty
both
good.
into
If
an
it's not,
Orgoth caster.
shut up, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you killed Horus, so that's pretty good going.
On free turn, crit decat of 30 damage.
Easy game, easy
Um,
life. Who else killed? Butcher.
yeah,
Ah,
Butcher.
mate. He
But
killed himself. That guy's sad.
yeah, turns out when you plan your Phantasm to survive because of some defensive tech, and then the defensive tech doesn't work, your Phantasm goes down real quick. Also, don't move your Phantasm within 12 inches of a Wyvern, thinking you can shoot it with kinetic grip, and then forgetting that you are -3 range. You've just moved into the threat range of a Wyvern.
Little Paragon
These
stand
are
in there.
this is why we practice. I'll be honest with you. I love the fact I'm happy that I've got one painted. The other one is just under this laptop, is in a box. I need to get it painted. I'm not going to be. I am very unlikely to take two to the Welsh.
I think that
I
is
am
more
going to.
meme than dream.
I am going to be taking two. I'm going to do the pair. I'm going to be running two of them at a steamroller near you after
In November.
the Welsh Masters. That's which is kind of really competitive. That's what we're sort of building ourselves up for. Yeah, I think that I think I agree with your assessment that it's more focused Hungary than I first anticipated. It's really getting. It's not got the volume of attacks that other colossals have or other even heavies have. When it does hit something, if you get to the crit, it's dead. But obviously you're relying on crits. Then I just part of me wishes we had a caster like the Shadow Flame Shard have, where they have crit use, everything counts as crits, because then the world would be amazing. Slayers would be great. I think one of the only things we have really in faction is crit decap. So
Crit and Mat
yeah.
6.
Yeah, Matt's and obviously we don't have a Matt buff in faction. We've got mortality.
What's that like being Mat 6? I'm never Mat 6.
If I were honest with you, it feels like the game's pretty fair and balanced at things being Mat 6. I feel like we spoke about lethality last week. No, I love the Phantasm. I think I'm really surprised by the sculpt. I do have I've got apparently something on the way from Steamforge in relation to a part for the Phantasm, but I haven't put in a ticket, so we'll find out if it's missing another head or there's some super laser that I forgot to attach at the top.
You get to the attachment and then suddenly it's Mat 7.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Sharon says Krieger's place is immune to Quagmire. Good to know.
Yeah. So I didn't know whether Sharon would want me to explain how Quagmire ruined my Phantasm's day. It turns out when you've got a unit of 5 little pigs that you've got to try and remove from a Phantasm that they've got Quagmire, because the Phantasm's base, you can't really get round it very easily to try and clear out that.
What is
stuff.
Quagmire? You can't advance if your base is base.
Yeah.
That makes it tricky to move. Yeah.
That does. That's almost the point of the spell.
That's always like a carver cast it on a dude and then he ran into you.
Yeah, unit.
Sneaky tech.
Yeah.
I think when I first read the Phantasm rules, I was a bit like, oh my god. But as it's like Mat and Rat 6, and then outside of like mortality, you're playing with that most of the game. I think it's how hungry it is makes it a bit less scary, to be honest. Though I think the damage like potential for it is probably higher than any of the other colossals if you crit all the crits.
I think it's a bit like it reminds me very much of Mage Hunter Assassins, where the potential's always there, but it can just happen. Like dice happen.
Dice.
You can have Mage Hunter Assassins can be power 10 with decap, not even crit decap. That sounds scary, but you can always just roll a 111 on a charge for the damage, and it's like, oh, I did nothing.
Yeah, that's valid. So in terms of your Welsh Master thoughts, what's your sort of what's your mindset going into it, and what would you be happy? I think it's 6 rounds guaranteed. So say there's 6 rounds, what would you be happy as a result of?
I'd love to go 4-2. If I went 3-3, I wouldn't be disappointed, because I want to go. I'll be honest with you, I want to go there, and if I could win the whole thing, that'd be a dream. But I'm not expecting to do that. I'm going there to compete. That doesn't mean that I'm going there expecting to win the whole thing. I would love to be the top Dusk player. I would love to be competitive in all my games. I think that's the really important thing for me. I don't want to be in a position where I'm frustrated at my own positioning or my own choices for more than 3 games. I think if 3 games I'm just like, you know what, I made a mistake, or they played. Again, it's okay for my opponents to play better, but I don't want to be walking away thinking more than 3 games have been because I've made a big boo-boo or whatever. That's for me. I think realistically, I'd like to go 4-4-2. If it's 7 rounds, I'd like to go 4-3. Last time I went to the Welsh Masters, I went to 4-3. That'd be great. If I went 5-2, that'd be even better. Anything above that. If I lost all my games, I wouldn't be buying out of War Machine. I wouldn't be selling out of War Machine, but I would be thinking, okay, what on earth's gone wrong? Especially as I know we've spoken about it. I'm currently running on fumes due to an 8-month-old son who is he's lovely, but the Welsh Masters is also my opportunity to get some sleep before playing some games. So I'm expecting my brain to be on full capacity and hopefully not walking into Wyvern and getting everything removed. What about yourself? How are you feeling about it? You feeling
First of all,
confident?
giga excited because the
Yeah,
first World Masters we've been since I think 2016.
yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
you can
a
do, yeah.
yeah. So really excited. Me and you are going to drive down together, which will be a real laugh. And then there's four of us in the same hotel. I think that would be great. Being in a room with like-minded people, it's going to be great. So I'm excited for the weekend. In terms of what I would like to do, if it's 6 rounds, I would love to go 4-2. I think 5-1 is achievable if I'm on form. I think 6-0 is out of reach and would need a small miracle. I would be happy with 3-3. And I think similarly with you, if I played 6 games and every game I thought, okay, I didn't make any glaring mistakes, I played well, but my opponents played better, 3-3 is good. I wouldn't really like too many games where like I just forget to put something on an objective or I just walk into a threat range and then lose.
Yeah.
But if I lose, 3 games to an opponent who played better than me and I not necessarily made mistakes, but they made better decisions, I'd be happy. I'd be happy with that. 4-2, I think is I can do that, and I think achievable is 5-1 if I'm on form. I think 6-0 is out of reach. Steve said, "Are you allowed to be there just to spectate?" Yes, it's being held in a venue called Firestorm Games, massive venue, and it's just like going to like I don't know, a big Games Workshop store. You can be there all day just to
Yeah.
walk around if you like. Um,
Yeah.
do we know if it's being streamed? So I did
Uh,
ask Steamforge Game about it, and I think they're currently undecided if it's being streamed or not. I actually think it'd be a really really good opportunity to get the game out there. It's like could be fully painted, so you're gonna have tables with decent terrain, I'd assume.
Iron Gauntlet qualifier. Don't forget about this. So if you do win it, you've qualified for the Iron Gauntlet, which could be a bigger event later, and they're going to have Lock and Node, I think, returning. So and should be a big celebration. So I agree with you completely. It'd be great to get it streamed.
So hopefully it's streamed. That would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me, if I could end positive, that would be lovely. And if it's 7 rounds, I think it's 6 rounds now. But if 7 rounds and I go 4-3, I'd be happy with that as well. But I'm really excited for the weekend. It's going to be sort of not something we'd experienced for a long time, really. The last time we did it was nearly 10 years ago, and then since then the game systems have sort of splintered. And at one point we played Guild Ball, and then we split into sort of Games Workshop games. But I think between like the Steamforge Games guys, the Chelmsford guys, or the London guys I know, or the Northern guys I know, it would be something that I've not sort of happened in a long time with lots of people in the same room. It'll be a great experience.
I think it's going to be great just to have the community come together. And I know locally we're really looking forward to going out for that meal or the Saturday night. I don't know how you're feeling, but we might not get there with a lot of time to play games on Friday. But just be able to hang out and get in the group and in that sort of in the room and just be able to see other people. I think Huggy was going to be there. I think he said he's going to make his way over from Belgium, which is going to be awesome to see him again. And also to see painted models. I think the game. I was sat when we were playing last weekend, and I was looking at Sherwin's fantastically painted pigs. Reed had his Orgoth and my fully painted Dusk. Looking at it, seeing a table, and this might be controversial, a table with 3D terrain. The game looks great when there's actual models painted, when the terrain is engaging, and you look and you take photos and go, wow, this is what War Machine should be. So I know that Steamroller sometimes really encourages, and the game can sometimes really encourage 2D terrain, and it can also not really doesn't say you have to be fully painted. The Welsh Masters has to be, and I think that's a great thing. And I'd love it to become part of Steamroller personally, because the game is just so much more engaging. You can have a conversation about the hobby, and it really does look fantastic, and the game should be really celebrated for it. The sculpts have got better and better, but even some of those old sculpts, looking at those old pigs that Sherman's painted, that have got some fantastic tartan, some great rust effects, some burn marks from where the guns are fired. Looking at it and going, actually, I took a moment to step back and think, what a crazy world where War Machine back 10 years ago was competing with 40k and Privateer Press were really the challengers to the Games Workshop giant, and they were producing outstanding models, and a great rule set, and the community was really thriving. And I really hope that the Welsh is going to be a way of igniting that. There was some great excitement after the Adepticon keynote, and I really hope that that continues after the Welsh. It's just that we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I agree. It would be great to hear more about the Egypticon keynote, what they said, if that's going to happen anytime soon. That would be lovely. Steve, so what are the dates? They are September the 20th to the 20 something, that weekend. So if you can come, Steve, come with us. That'd be great. So we will wrap it up there. A big thank you to anyone who come and join us today. I think I can be here next week, I believe. So we'll talk about Old Umbre maybe, or something else. So thank you for everyone joining. Thank you, Dan, and we will see you till next week. Bye, guys.
Take care.